You pass matric, now what? It's absolutely common to work so hard to get that matric result you're aiming for and actually not be clear on what your plans are after matric. It's such a milestone in your life. It's okay to pause, and it's certainly okay not to be sure about what to do next. Personally, I believe the best thing you can do, even while you're still at school, to help you figure out what's going to be the right career for you is job shadowing. Any opportunity you get to spend time in a real workplace and just check out different jobs or even do some of the work, that's going to help you really figure out, do you like a certain kind of work and do you hate some kinds of work. So absolutely top of my list is job shadowing. And then of course, if you're looking at further studies, it depends on how well you've passed your matric. If you've got a bachelor's pass, it means you can go to university. All the universities don't have the same entrance criteria. So your bachelor's pass in general means you can go and study towards a degree, but you still have to apply to a specific university. You apply for a specific program at that university, and you need to understand what the entrance criteria is for that specific program. And the entrance criteria between universities will also be different. So you might need an APS score of 20 for engineering on one university, and a different university might need an APS score of 21. Definitely when you start looking at university entrance criteria, you will see how many programs require of you to pass mathematics at matric level. So if you're still at school, I know it might feel easier to go down to mathematical literacy, but if you study mathematical literacy and not mathematics, you are closing a lot of doors, a lot of study options when it comes to universities. I would say 80% of university programs require you to have passed maths at matric level. So if you're doing mathematical literacy in matric, you're closing the doors to 80% of those degrees. Cool, so that's degrees. What can you do if you have a diploma pass? If you have a diploma pass, traditionally you're aiming at a technikon rather than a university. You're looking at your NATED programs, national diplomas. You study N4, N5, N6. Usually those 3 steps. And also with your national diplomas, what you often find is that there's a lot more practical work in a national diploma than there would be in a degree. Obviously, from an employer's perspective, an employer might rate your national diploma higher because they can see you've got 18 months or more practical work experience already behind you in comparison to a person who might have done a degree. So please don't think a national diploma is a weaker option. It's not the same thing as a degree. Degrees are theoretical training, and national diplomas are much more practical, job-orientated, career-orientated training. I'm involved with Bellevue Institute of Distance Learning. We're offering a range of national diplomas. So you're looking at human resources management, general management, office administration, legal secretary, educare. There's a range of things you can study and end up with a post-matric qualification. Of course, the other reason I love those national diplomas is you start off with your N4 level, you study for 6 months, you write your exams. If you pass, you already get a certificate at that point. So personally, I love study systems where at every step along the way you can earn a certificate. For me, a degree is quite scary, or any 3-year program where you only get a qualification, one qualification right at the end is quite scary, because you're going to get 2 years in, quit, and have nothing to show for those 2 years. So I'm a huge fan of national diplomas, because I know you're actually getting a national certificate, another national certificate, another national certificate. You do your 18 months practical, and then you get your national diploma. Okay, so what if you have a certificate pass in matric? I don't see a huge difference between a certificate pass and a diploma pass, because if I have a certificate pass, I can study for a national certificate. And if I'm studying a national certificate, like I said, in 4 level, well, that leads to the national certificate in 5, national certificate in 6. And if I have my national certificate in 6 and I do my 18 months practical, I get a national diploma. So I actually think a certificate pass in matric certainly can also lead you to a post-matric national accredited diploma. And once again, the same themes, business management, financial management, educare, office administration. And I'm naming those because I know especially office administration and financial management or bookkeeping are scarce skills. Also, if you then look at, you just have a pass in matric, or maybe you only even have grade 11, then you should consider the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. They have national certificates. They also build up to national diplomas, but the entrance level is a little bit lower. So with your grade 11 pass at school, you can already enter into that program and build yourself up to matric level and to beyond matric level. Now, if you study a program, even if it's accredited courses, that's at the same academic level as matric, that doesn't give you a matric certificate. It gives you something that's academically equivalent to matric. Often people really want that matric certificate, so if they look at alternative studies, they go, no, I'm not interested in that because I must have my matric certificate. Personally, I'm a huge fan of a program where you can start at a younger age and at a lower level and build yourself up, build a career. If you have a national diploma, national certificate in office administration, if you have a national diploma in bookkeeping, nobody's going to ask for your matric certificate because you've got something that's higher than matric. Cool. Lastly, people talk about taking a gap year to really just take a break from studying and think about what they want to do next. And what I would say is, if you are taking a gap year, try to get some value out of that gap year. Get a part-time job, do job shadowing, and of course there's all kinds of short courses you can do to pick up job-specific skills that will help you, that will help your career. Yeah, so if you look at a short course like email etiquette or how to, write a good CV, there's many short courses that you can fit into a gap year and just think about adding 1 or 2 skills. If you're doing job shadowing, if you've got a part-time job for that gap year, you should be asking the people where you are working, what skills do they think you should add to your portfolio of skills? And if they go, listen, you need to learn how to write your emails better, do a short course in email writing. It all adds up, it all makes you more employable, and it all helps you figure out what's the right path for you. Thank you.